The city's public housing authority serves more than 330,000 New Yorkers and 160,000 apartments all across the 5 boroughs. The largest public housing authority in the nation. It has chronically been underfunded. It's had a revolving door of management, leading to crumbling infrastructure and poor living conditions for many of the city's lowest income residents. After a city council oversight hearing 1 month ago focused on a new push to get apartments repaired and leased, I made a comment last week to the effect of, here we go again with another promise to fix NYCHA. Officials at the Housing Authority, I don't think, appreciated my sarcasm. Lisa Bova-Hiatt is with us this morning, the interim CEO at NYCHA. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you understand where I'm coming from here, that there has been a string of problems at NYCHA, a string of promises to improve, and not necessarily enough results.
So I appreciate your comment. However, as somebody that's worked at NYCHA for the past 3 years, and somebody who has made it her mission to make sure that NYCHA is meeting its promises under our HUD agreement, it's frustrating to hear, oh, it's the same old NYCHA, because I can tell you that we have made substantial changes. We are moving in the right direction. We are prioritizing the things that we should be prioritizing.
Do you think tenants agree with that? Or do they see progress?
I think tenants do see that. And I speak to tenants every day. I go out to developments. And do we have more work to do? Absolutely. But NYCHA is nearly a 100-year-old organization, and we've been working with the federal monitor, our partners at the state level, at the city level, at the federal level, consistently since 2019 when we signed the HUD agreement. So when you think about the decades of disinvestment, change does not happen overnight. But when you look at our vacancy rate, which is lower than the city's vacancy rate, it's lower than the average public housing authority vacancy rate. And when you look at the reason why it's taking what most people say is a long time, what we're doing is we're making those apartments safer. We're remediating them from lead and asbestos and mold, so that when somebody moves into the apartment, they're moving into an apartment and they can feel comfortable knowing that it's lead-free, it's asbestos-free, it's mold-free.
But why is there always a backlog?
Well, think about this. We have 170,000 apartments. Our scale is one of our greatest challenges. And we also have a huge deficit. So when you think about the timing and coordination that it takes, not only to do our everyday work, but to focus on mold, have it tested, wait for the test to come back, QA, QC the test, then test the tiles for asbestos. Those things take time, and sequencing it takes time. But again, when you look at our vacancy rate overall, compared to other public housing authorities and compared to the city, other landlords, we're actually doing a good job.
I want to go through a couple of specific things here. 140 unfilled positions on skilled trades teams. Are the salaries that you offer to those tradespeople, are they sufficient to attract them? Why aren't you able to fill those jobs?
So filling takes time. I don't think that NYCHA necessarily pays what a skilled trade worker can make on the open market, but staffing up can take time. But we do have staff that can do the work. So it's not a matter, when you think about, again, we have 12,000 employees, 140 skilled trades workers in the grand scheme of things is not that troubling.
We were talking in the commercial break about the rent arrears at NYCHA. If you look at the last 12 months, only 65% of rent was actually paid. Your position is that you're trying to collect this rent, but it's not coming in, and there are some structural changes with the EREP program, for example, that have left people deciding not to pay rent.
Exactly. So we, like other landlords prior to the pandemic, had some people who didn't pay rent. However, the pandemic was both a health crisis and an economic crisis. And we saw that in public housing. And the federal government acknowledged that and gave states money in the form of emergency rental assistance and left it up to each state to decide how they were going to best administer it. Unfortunately, New York was the only state to deprioritize subsidized housing. So our tenants have been waiting for what their friends and neighbors, people who are not living in subsidized housing, have benefited from. So right now we are inching closer to $500 million in unpaid rent.
So if the tenants get that money, you in turn should be able to collect that money.
Absolutely.
Final question here in the time we have remaining. If you had one ask for the other levels of government, what would make your mission easier in trying to reform NYCHA?
Well, my mission is to make sure that people understand how important public housing is to New York City. 1 in 16 New Yorkers lives in a NYCHA apartment, and I want to change the paradigm of what people think about NYCHA, and we can only do that with our help from our city partners, our state partners, and our federal partners.
Lisa, thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you.